right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakah Kodash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And yeah, today we're gonna go into Second Esdras, the 8th chapter, which I believe this will be the last, basically the last chapter that to cover, left to cover, I should say. As I've gone through, what's up with these guys, man? You making loud ass music, man. Jake is all right, whatever. But yeah, this will be, Lord willing, the last chapter, chapter within the book of Second Esdras. But anyway, let's get into it, right? This is the book of Second Esdras, chapter 8, and I put the thumbnail as as a baby or an infant or a fetus in the womb, because basically I was looking for a thumbnail to put, and Ezra mentions that he speaks about that in this chapter as well. So I just figured, why not? So Second Ezra chapter 8 verse 1, it says, and he answered me, saying, the Most High hath made this world for many, but the world to come for few. I will tell thee a similitude. Yeah, because there's gonna be a lot more people that are gonna die than those that are gonna be delivered, as the angel is gonna go on to say. It says, I will tell thee a similitude, Esdras, as when thou askest the earth, it shall say unto thee that it giveth much mold, whereof earthen vessels are made. And pretty much clay, right? Because that's how you make earthen vessels, pots, and vase, and those kinds of things. It says here, but little dust that gold cometh of, even so is the course of this present world, right? So there are more, like the scriptures say, that the multitude perish then which was born in vain. So there are more people that are ungodly, or I don't want to use the word insignificant, but there are more people that live a vain life than there are those that actually live a meaningful life according to Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh Shai, which is basically the comparison of the elect versus everybody else. And it's going to go on to say that. It says, there be many created, but few shall be saved. So that's why he gave the similitude of the earth giving up so much mold for earthen vessels, but only a little bit of dust for gold. It says, verse 4, so answered I and said, swallow then down, O my soul, understanding, and devour wisdom. For thou hast agreed to give ear, and art willing to prophesy, for thou hast no longer space than only to live. So basically Ezra is saying, in essence to himself, that to basically get ready to understand these things, as he inquired of it. All right, and as it says, verse 5, for thou hast agreed to give ear and art willing to prophesy, right? To know and get involved with the things concerning the future. Okay, it says for thou hast no longer space than only to live, right? Which that's pretty much the case for all of us, right? You only have enough time to live as the Lord has allotted it to you. It says, verse 6, O Lord, if thou suffer not thy servant, right? It says, O Lord, if thou suffer not thy servant, that we may pray before thee, and thou give us seed into our heart, and culture to our understanding, that there may come fruit of it, how shall each man live that is corrupt? Who shall bear who beareth the place of a man? So Ezra is saying, Lord, if you don't allow us to come and pray unto you, and then you plant seed, which is the righteous seed, okay, or the righteous ways into our mind, and culture meaning to cultivate it. He's making a similitude of planting, as the Apostle Paul also did, which when he said, what, I have planted, Apollos watered, but the Most High gave the increase. So Ezra is saying here, if you don't suffer us to come and pray before you, and you give us that that righteous seed in our mind, and nurture it and cultivate it to our understanding, you know, that there may come forth fruit, right, of righteousness. If you don't allow that, then it says, how shall each man live that is corrupt, who beareth the place of a man? So how shall a son of man, right, that is corrupt, because what we have stony hearts, you know, how are we to live? Because we're constantly going to keep on going off and off and off. But according to the second covenant, the Lord is going to put that seed in our mind and cultivate it with understanding when he changes our bodies and changes our minds. Okay, it says, going on, verse 7, for thou art alone, and we all one workmanship of thine hands, like as thou hast said. Right, because ultimately we were created by the Most High. It was there's one Most High, but we all come from him. All right, from his blueprint that he gave to Yahushua and the Elohim for the creation. So it says, verse 8, for when the body is fashioned now in the mother's womb, and thou givest it members, right? Your hands, your head, your eyes, your your feet, you know. It says here, thy creature is preserved in fire and water, and 9 months doth thy workmanship endure, thy creature which is created in her. Yeah, because your spirit is fire, is energy, and your body is in water. When you're in your mother's womb, that's water. Okay, and that's why when she is about to bring forth the child, they say that her water broke. Okay, so it says, reading it again, verse 8, verse 8, for when the body is fashioned now in the mother's womb, and thou givest it members, thy creature is preserved in fire and water, and 9 months doth thy workmanship, which is the workmanship, in other words, creation, and here is referring unto the mother. So 9 months doth thy workmanship endure, thy creature, which is the baby, which is created in her. Right. Verse 9, it says, but that which keepeth and is kept shall both be preserved. So the mother that keeps the child and the child that is kept in the mother's womb shall both be preserved. It says, and when the time cometh, right, after 9 months, the womb preserved delivereth up the things that grew in it, which is when the baby is born. It says, verse 10, for thou hast commanded out of the parts of the body, that is to say, out of the breast, milk to be given, which is the fruit of the breast, that the thing which is fashioned may be nourished for a time. Yeah, so for a period of time, when the woman lactates, and then the baby is able to, you know, drink the breast milk and get nourished by that. It says, till thou disposest it to thy mercy. So after a period of time, when the child starts to grow, now they're left to the mercy of the Lord. It says, verse 12, thou broughtest it up with thy righteousness, and nurturedest it in thy law, and reformest it with thy judgment, which is really the ways for us. Okay, we're brought up, as it says, verse 12, thou broughtest it up with thy righteousness, and nurturest it with thy law. And it tells you in the scriptures that what you're supposed to basically you're supposed to when your child goes in and comes out, and by the way, you're constantly supposed to be inputting the laws, statutes, and commandments in their minds. The scriptures say what? Train up a child in the way that he shall go, and when he is old, he shall not depart. So going on, it says, and reformest it with thy judgment, and thou shalt mortify it as thy creature, and quicken it as thy work. Right. So through the judgments of the Lord, not only is he going to nurture us and raise us up, but he is going to what's the word I'm looking for here? He's going to sustain us, you know, and quicken us, which means when you quicken something, you make it alive. It says here, verse 14, if therefore thou shalt destroy him with which Salakia, if therefore thou shalt destroy him which with so great labor was fashioned, right, which is the creation. It was in the womb 9 months, and the members grew, and then it had to be breastfed, and then it grew, and then they had the laws, and then they had to, So the Lord, so Ezra is saying here, if thou shalt destroy him, which with so great labor was fashioned, it is an easy thing to be ordained by thy commandment, that the thing which was made might be preserved. So it's not a difficult thing for you to preserve if this creature, right? That that through so much effort was made to live. It's an easy thing for you to preserve thy creature and not destroy it. Verse 15. Now therefore, Lord, I will speak. Touching man in general, thou knowest best. But touching thy people, for whom sake I am sorry, and for thine inheritance, for whose cause I mourn, and for Israel, for whom I am heavy, and for Jacob, for whose sake I am troubled. Therefore will I begin to pray before thee for myself and for them. For I see the falls of us that dwell in the land. But I have heard the swiftness of the judge which is to come, which is Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. Verse 19, therefore hear my voice and understand my words, and I shall speak before thee. This is the beginning of the words of Esdras before he was taken up. Yeah, so basically these are the things that Ezra said to the Lord, before his time was up, because Ezra was lived to be an old man, and eventually he died. Okay, but before that, we're reading of the things that he said. So it says here, verse, where am I? Slacky. All right, verse 20. O Lord, thou that dwellest in everlastings, which beholdest from above things in the heaven and in the air, whose throne is inestimable, whose glory may not be comprehended, before whom the host of angels stand with trembling, so before the Most High, the angels tremble. That's how much they fear the Most High. That's how glorious the Most High is. It says, whose service is conversant in wind and fire, right? The elements, he has control of that. Whose word is true and sayings constant. So the words of the Lord, when something is constant, it means it doesn't change. It says, whose commandment is strong and ordinance fearful, whose look drieth up the depths, and indignation maketh the mountains to melt away, which the truth witnesseth. So Ezra is basically emphasizing the power and the glory and the majesty of the Most High. It says, verse 24, O hear the prayer of thy servant, and give ear to the petition of thy creature. For while I live, I will speak, and so long as I have understanding, I will answer. O look not upon the sins of thy people, but on them which serve thee in truth. Regard not the wicked inventions of the heathen, but the desire of those that keep thy testimonies in afflictions. Think not upon those which are who? Ultimately the elect of the nation of Israel. It says, think not upon those that have walked vainly before thee, but remember them which according to thy will have known thy fear. And why is Ezra saying this? Because if the Lord was to look upon the wicked and look upon the ungodly of our people, we would continuously be getting jacked up. So Ezra is saying, no, don't look at them. Look at those that are doing right, that you may have mercy, that you may remember your covenant you made with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that you may remember that not all of us are bad. So going on, it says, verse 29, let it not be thy will to destroy them which have lived like beasts, but to look upon them that have clearly taught thy law. So don't focus on those, on destroying those that have, lived like wild animals, but focus on those that have taught thy law, those that are doing right according to you, or according to your will. It says here, verse 30, take thou no indignation at them which are deemed worse than beasts, which are the wicked of our people, right? Because the scriptures say that, roughly paraphrasing, that before basically coming into the truth, we were as beasts before the Lord. And Peter also says that, right? Calls the wicked Israelites brute deeds as natural brute beasts, speaking evil of things they know not, of dignities. It says, verse 29, let it not, Slack it, verse 30. It says, take thou no indignation at them which are deemed worse than beasts, but love them that always put their trust in thy righteousness and glory. For we and our fathers do languish of such diseases, right? Basically, when he says diseases, he means like these troubles that he's mentioning. It says, but because of us sinners, right? Because ultimately, where you can think of it as us being sickened with the disease of sin that we can't be cured of. All right. And that's why ultimately Yahushua is going to come and cure us of that. But as Ezra is saying here, that we and our forefathers do language of such diseases, but because of us sinners, thou shalt be called merciful. Why? Because it's because we are sinners and we go off that the mercy of the Lord is glorified. The mercy of the Lord is magnified. Because when we go off and the Lord still doesn't destroy us and he still gives us another chance, that magnifies his mercy. But that opportunity comes by because we are sinners and we need that mercy of the Lord. That's pretty much what Ezra is saying here. It says, verse 32, for if thou hast a desire to have mercy upon us, thou shalt be called merciful to us, namely, that have no works of righteousness. Why? Because truly, ultimately, we deserve worse than what the Lord has given us, right? According to our works, we deserve death, because the scriptures say that the wages of sin is death. But we didn't get death, right? And what did that do? That magnified the mercies of Yahweh B'Hashem Yahushai. It says, for the just, which have many good works laid up with thee, shall out of their own deeds receive reward. Right? So those that have done good are going to be rewarded according to the good that they've done. It says, for what is man that thou, because Ezra is saying here that, well, if you reward somebody that is doing good according to the good that they're doing, that is different than you still having mercy and rewarding somebody that is a sinner by giving them a second chance to repent, and be delivered. That is what magnifies your mercy even more. So don't focus on the wicked of our people and get mad at us and get worked up over that. Instead, focus on those that are trying to do right. It says, verse 34, for what is man that thou shouldest take displeasure at him? Or what is a corruptible generation that thou shouldest be so bitter towards it? For in truth, there is no man among them that is born, but he, Slakia. For in truth, there is no man among them that is born, but he hath dealt wickedly. And among the faithful, there is none which hath not done amiss. So none of us are perfect, right? Of all of us who are born of women, we all go off. No matter how hard you try, we all go off with the exception of Yahushua. Because he was perfect when he came as Yahushua. So carrying on verse 36, it says, for in this, O Lord, thy righteousness and thy goodness shall be declared, if thou be merciful unto them which have not the confidence of good works. Then answered he me and said, some things hast thou spoken aright, and according unto thy words it shall be. So there's certain, you said a few things that were, accurate and correct. And according as you said it, that's what's going to happen. Verse 38, It says, for indeed I will not think on the disposition of them which have sinned before death, before judgment, and before destruction. So the Lord is saying, I'm not even going to be worried about, the manner or the fashion of these people that have sinned when it comes to their death or their judgment, or their destruction. But I will rejoice over the disposition of the righteous. And I will remember also their pilgrimage and the salvation and the reward that they shall have. Like as I have spoken now, so shall it come to pass. For as the husbandman soweth much seed upon the ground, and planteth many trees, and yet the thing that is sown good in his season cometh not up, neither doth all that is planted take root. Even so is it of them that are sown in the world, they shall not all be saved. So pretty much saying that, like a husbandman, he plows, he breaks up the earth, he puts the seed in there, he waters it. Though he could plant 1,000 seeds in the earth, not all of them are gonna grow. Only a few of them are gonna grow, right? And it said, like, not all of them are gonna take root. So that's the same way that though you have all these Israelites here, or all these people on the earth, only a few are gonna be saved. Verse 42, I answered then and said, if I have found grace, let me speak. Like as the husbandman's seed perisheth, if it come not up, and receive not thy rain in due season, for if there come too much rain, like as the husbandman's seed perisheth, if it come not up and receive not thy rain in due season, or if there come too much rain and corrupt it, even so perisheth man also, which is formed with thy hands, and is called thine own image, because thou art like unto him, for whose sake thou hast made all things, and likened him unto the husbandman's seed. So Ezra said, pretty much I understand what you're saying, but it's not like, they just perish. There's some that perish because they don't get enough water, to nourish them, and some that perish because they get overwatered. It says, verse 45, be not wroth with us, but spare thy people, and have mercy upon thine own inheritance, for thou art merciful unto thy creature. Then answered he me and said, things present are for the present, and things to come for such as be to come. So it says, verse 47, basically the things that are now are for the people that are here, and the things that are to come are for the people, are for the future, for those that are going to be on the earth in that time. Verse 47, for thou comest far short than thou shouldest, that thou shouldest be able to love my creature more than I. But I have oft times drawn nigh unto thee, and unto it, but never to the unrighteous. So the Lord is saying, look, if you try to love Israel more than me, you coming way short, But I have drawn closer to you and to my creature, right? Which are the Israelites, but of the unrighteous I have not drawn myself close to. I have not come near them. It says, verse 48, why? Because the Most High doesn't like unrighteousness. It says, in this also thou art marvelous before the Most High, in that thou hast humbled thyself as it becometh thee, and hast not judged thyself worthy to be much glorified among the righteous. So when Ezra was speaking to the angel, when he was, speaking and all of that, he didn't try to magnify himself or put himself on a pedestal above others. So it goes on to say, verse 50, for many great miseries shall be done to them that in the latter time shall dwell in the world, because they have walked in great pride. And that's what we're seeing now. All right, the time's coming, the times known as Jacob's trouble, the famines, the pestilences, the destruction, the chaos, the hard times, the death. It says, why? Because they have walked in great pride. And because of that pride, they didn't repent. Verse 51, but understand thou for thyself, and seek out the glory for such as be like thee. For unto you is paradise opened. The tree of life is planted. And what's the fruit of the tree of life? Immortality. The time to come is prepared. Plenteous is made ready. A city is builded, and rest is allowed, which is the kingdom. Yea, perfect goodness and wisdom. The root of evil is sealed up from you. Weakness and moth is hid from you, and corruption is fled into hell to be forgotten. So Ezra is saying, you're going to have, not Ezra, the angel is telling Ezra that many evils are going to come in the, unto them that dwell on the earth in the latter days, but worry more about people like you and the and the reward of the elect, because for you is going to be the tree of immortality planted, and peace and rest that you're allowed to take. Verse 54, sorrows are past, and in the end is shewed the treasures of immortality. And this is also echoed in Revelation, the 21st chapter. It says, verse 55, and therefore ask thou no more questions concerning the multitude of them that perish. For when they had taken liberty, they despised the Most High, thought scorn of his law, and forsook his ways. Moreover, they have trodden down his righteousness, or Salakia, they have trodden down his righteous. Right. So when they had the opportunity to repent, they didn't want to repent. They didn't take heed. They made light of the Most High's mercy. And as it says in 2 Chronicles 36 and 16, they mocked the messengers of the Most High until there was no remedy. Okay? As it says, they have trodden down his righteous and said in their heart that there is no God. And it tells you in the book of Psalms 14 and 1, the fool has said in his heart that there is no God. It says, yea, and that knowing they must die, because they knew what was right and they didn't do it. It says, for as the things aforesaid shall receive you, so thirst and pain are prepared for them. Meaning that the reward that I mentioned above, just like those are going to apply to you, the thirst and the pain and suffering is going to apply to them. It says, for it was not his will that men should come to naught. So the Most High didn't want ultimately us to be destroyed, right? But they which be created have defiled the name of him that made them. So they basically forced the Most High's hand. And it tells you in Baruch 4 that ye were not sold to the nations for your destruction, but that ye moved the Most High to wrath. So carrying on, it says, but they which be created have defiled the name of him that made them, and were unthankful unto him which prepared life for them. And therefore is my judgment now now at hand. These things have I not shewed unto all men, but unto thee and a few like thee. Then answered I and said, behold, O Lord, now hast thou shewed me the multitude of the wonders which thou wilt begin to do in the last times. But at what time thou hast not shewed me. So Ezra basically was blessed with these visions and these revelations of what was going to happen in the future. But when it comes to the exact time when they would happen, it wasn't revealed unto him. Okay. And that's pretty much it for the book of 2nd Esdras, the 8th chapter. Okay. It's not, like I said, some of these chapters are not really, like a super deep breakdown, but there's still gems in there when you read basically the conversation that Ezra had with the angel and what things the angel said unto him and what questions Ezra had and how those questions were answered. All right. So anyway, with that, I'm going to end it here. Lord willing, that was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakak Wadash. Until next time, Shalom.